Hello, this is Winston Cunningham. It is June 8th, 2026. And I would like to talk today about pain. Now, I've done talks on particular types of pain before. I did a talk on emotions, on anxiety. I did a talk on the pain in childbirth, which is mentioned early on in the Bible, about getting things started. But I want to talk about the pain, that the way that most people will relate to pain, and just they hurt in some way that they don't understand. And that's what I want to address. And I looked up the root word that goes back to came from a word in Greece, which means punishment, basically, but also a subtle use of the word could mean honor. So let me see if I can help in some way some people understand pain. Pain, as I understand it, now after I've got my education from the School of Metaphysics and about mind, and the last 40 years experience is what I'm drawing on here. So I understand pain differently than maybe most people do. Very simply put, the way I understand pain is, and the way that it's stated in the book Permanent Healing, which is from research into mind by the School of Metaphysics, and book written by Daniel Condren. It lists pain as a refusal to learn. And the way that I describe that as a way for someone to understand it a little easier is that pain is the body's way of calling your attention to something that is out of place. This is all. If the message that is coming through is ignored, the pain increases. And if that ignorance continues, the pain will linger. So I see people at the YMCA that are complaining about pain they've been going through for years and years and years without having a clue what it's about, because they think things just happen to them. And so they have not reached a point in their progression to where they understand that they cause everything that happens. And if you have no experience with expanding your consciousness, then that may not make sense to you. But as you do concentration exercises, meditation, visualization, those types of things, meditation being the most common, or the most useful actually too, because meditation causes the conscious mind and the subconscious mind to become more aligned and in line more with the spirit which is above. And when most people are thinking they're connecting through religion to the spirit and so forth, it's just emotion, that's all. And that they understand it as the spirit because they have not expanded their consciousness enough to grasp the reality. That's what it comes down to. So a person can begin to understand pain by paying attention to the pain and say, okay, and then consider the idea. Okay, if I cause this, then let me investigate how I caused it. And I suggest that the first thing you do is get a copy of Daniel Condren's book, Permanent Healing. And it will tell you, it'll point you where to look to understand it. And it is when there's something out of place. The only way complete healing can and will occur is when the attitude that caused the problem is changed. And most people are going through the life not even understanding that their pain is related to their refusal to grow. And that realization can open a new world for you. I mean, when I went to school of metaphysics, of course I had to have it. I needed truth, and I asked where it was, and the School of Metaphysics is what showed up. And they taught me everything I needed to know for this, to use for this lifetime. And so I know that School of Metaphysics was the place for me. Now, what it winds up being for someone else is dependent upon their particular soul. If they're to get the guidance from the soul, you need to pay attention. Keyword is pay. But listening within for the answer to your prayers, and I did a talk on that. Listen to my talk on listening within. It's just where it's at. That's how it's going back to what Jesus said, be still and know that I am God. And I suspect that when that was originally written, the word is was in there, but it was taken out because it didn't make sense to somebody whose consciousness was not expanded. And that's the key, is expanding the consciousness. Because otherwise, your religion, politics, are just shifting what's on the surface, and that gets nowhere. It creates a new building, a new church, a new group of people that think a little bit differently than this other group, and they're more right. It's a silly thing. But I saw it growing up, and a few people in church would disagree with the rest of the group, and so they split off and start their own church. And that's how there got to be so many churches. And if you look close, these churches are not very crowded. Some of them are. But it depends. In my mind, the church has become pretty much a social club. And if you'll observe and examine it, just observe, it's easy to begin to see how that plays out. But back to pain. Pain, if a person wants to understand pain, as a Greek word, it means punishment, but in some cases would mean honor, or a subtle use of pain would be honor. And you can imagine how that might have played out. But to understand the pain that exists, as I understand it with most people, is it really helps. The pain is simply a calling from within, is another way to put it. And if you're hearing the call, you will pay attention to the changes you need to make to adjust to the picture that is being presented by your own soul. Your own soul is the one that does the presentation. It's not some man sitting on a mountaintop or a cloud. It's your own soul, which is a part of you. It's the part of you that survives between lifetimes. You get into a different body each time. But the soul is the real you. I mean, it's not all of you, but it's the go-between between you and the spirit, if you will. And I won't go. In other talks, I broke down the elements of mind where that would make more sense, and you can listen to some of those if you like. But basically, we started with I am, light, which is I am, or Lord God in the Bible. Light is the essence of who you are. This is I am. And below I am needed a way to get acquainted with the self. So we created mind. And mind needed a way to get acquainted with itself, so it created the physical body. It worked in that progression. And by the time we worked all the way out to where our attention was all in the physical existence, we forgot where we came from. And therein lies most of the problems. Because and I did a talk just recently on separation. You'll want to go back and hear that. I call it the big lie, because we're not separate from God. Jesus told you that very clearly. The kingdom of heaven is within. And the way you connect with it is listen within. It's not rocket science. It does take some work, unlike what the religion I grew up in said you don't have to work. But they didn't know enough to ignore what was... Jesus kind of pointed us in the direction of us becoming whole and complete again, like we were in the beginning, to come full circle. I am the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. And it's amazing to me that most people who claim to follow Jesus don't really understand much of what he said. So I challenge you, if you want to understand your pain, go back and reread the words of Jesus, but this time read it with the expectation of you understanding who he is and what he said. But don't filter it in with a million other people's opinion about it, because your opinion is the one that counts. Start to build understandings. And I saw a verse on the blackboard at the Y just yesterday. It says, lean on Lord with all your soul, heart, and soul. But it says lean not on your understandings. But that's the total opposite of what Jesus was teaching, because it is our understandings that allows us to move forward. Our own understandings coming from our own experience. That's the only way it can come. And so here it is, somebody changed the words, and I did a talk on this, of why some of the things in the Bible were changed. I called it the I'll forget what I called it now, but it was, I go through how some verses were changed in the Bible to reflect the group's understanding, rather than to cause themselves to expand enough to understand the original message. They don't understand the message, they change the message. And this has happened so many times, and I just gave you a good example. Lean not on your own understandings. Well, that's the total opposite of what a person needs to do. That's the total opposite. And religion is teaching this crap. I call it crap, because that's what it is. And these things were changed a long time ago to make sure that the crowd kept following the leaders in the church, rather than finding out who the real leader is and looking in here. Pain can be referred to as choice. Choice. It is choice that causes each life to be the way that it is and causes it to grow or crumble or whatever it does. It is choice. Observe your own choices. Observe the choices of others and listen to their words. You'll see that people experiencing particular types of pain, they'll keep repeating the same things over and over again, recreating the very thing they don't want. It's not rocket science. This is real simple stuff, and Jesus was teaching this. Go back and read his words and leave out other people's words. Just pay attention to the words of Jesus. That's one thing that's still correct about the Bible. The printing of the Bible is that his words were highlighted in red. Highlighted in red. And so that is the one thing that is still true. Anyone on this planet can have freedom. It's interesting that our land, the United States, that's where I am, was built upon the idea of freedom and the separation from church and state. That is what caused this country to be. But you got lots of people, the same ones that elected a foolish president, the same ones that were blind enough to need a blind leader, and so they elected one. These same people are wanting to pull religion back into politics. Well, politics and religion are pretty much the same thing. But the government is us. Listen to my is very short talk. U.S. means us, as in we are running the country. And I explain how it's our combined thoughts. So this is how each one of us has the influence. And we can change that influence by being more specific about what we want and how we're going for it. I am very specific about where I am and what I'm doing and what I'm approaching. And I'm not copying other people. I went through some of that. That's just lunacy. If you want to understand pain, just start paying attention to your own experience. If you feel something uncomfortable, ask yourself why. Not just your doctor or some book or some group, but within. And again, listen to my talk on listening within. Excuse me. Everything is available. You can be free now. Freedom is the result of accepting responsibility, learning to respond with your abilities, learning to respond to your abilities, and developing more abilities to respond. That's the use of responsibility, which produces freedom. Freedom is not cheap. It is available. I'm Winston Cunningham. Thank you.